Okay, everybody, for those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Forrest, and welcome to It's Go Time. Now, before I get going, I'm going to ask if you can all stay off of this raised up platform here, the stage area here. This way nobody blocks the display, and it gives me a little bit of room to move around, do the whole hosting thing, right? Now, also, if I can ask you not to send me any text messages while I'm up here, because, when you're hosting an event like this and you're moving around a lot, and you're doing that, when that big wall of text hits, it's like hitting a brick wall. It doesn't feel too good. So if I can ask you to not do that, I'd appreciate that. Also, if I can direct your attention to your menu wheel in your lower left, you're going to notice this microphone icon kind of looks like this right here. And when that's clear, that means we can hear everything that's happening in your environment. So I've gone ahead and I've turned that to red. And this way, like, if, like maybe somebody comes in your space and says, hey, are you still on that thing? Well, we're not going to be able to hear that. Also, likewise, if you have maybe a barking dog in the background, you're not going to face social ruin by becoming known as the avatar that suddenly started barking during its go time, right? But just because you're muted doesn't mean you can't express yourself. You're going to notice this pink cheeked smiley face in your emoji wheel. Not easy to say, but easy to use. If you just press on that, your emoji panel will open up in the air in front of you and give you a wide variety of options with which to express yourself. So let's say, for example, that I share something really deep, something powerful, and it touches it down here and it starts to build up. Right? You can just let it out just like that, let it flow. Maybe I got some backup dancers backstage, right? And they come out and we break into It's Go Time, the musical. Maybe they're not dancers at all. Maybe they're ninjas and they start fighting and there's explosion and it's amazing. And you can throw up the applause I live for just like that. And I can take a moment to drink it all in because it feels good. All right, I could ask you guys a yes or no question. You could say yes by smiling like this. You can say no by frowning like this. Maybe I say something funny. You can show me that you think it's funny by doing this silly faced emoji here. By doing that, that'll, like let me know you think it's funny, right? Also, there's this. This is by far the most distracting of all the emojis, right? And you use this to let me know there's a problem. You don't use this to ask a question like we're going to be taking questions and comments at the end, so if you can hang on to those. But look, maybe I'm moving my hands around here and it looks like I'm all involved, right? And all of a sudden there's like a problem, like there's a stage behind me goes on fire because the mods have had enough, right? They've seen one show too many, right? And this is going to be our sacred pact. You guys got to let me know if there's a problem like that. Or maybe I'm moving my hands around. It looks like I'm talking, but no sound's coming out, right? And listen, if I see one hand go up like this, right, then maybe it's somebody just having a good time there, right, trying to distract us or whatever. But if I see 5 of them go up at once, I know there's a problem, right? So you guys let me know if something like that happens, okay? Also, you can press that X button in the middle of the emoji panel. That's going to close it. But it's a good idea to leave it open during events like this because it gives me feedback. It lets me know how I'm doing. But more importantly, it lets the people around you know what you're experiencing, right? So if the person next to you starts going like this, they may, find something funny and you may not agree. You might be like, that's not funny at all. I don't know what's with this guy. I'm going to go stand over here. And you can do that because this is VR, except not right here because it's, the stage area. Remember, we have that sacred pact, that agreement together, you, the audience, and I. All right, now let's see. Now, Go Time is an event for Oculus Go users, but if you're on the device, feel free to hang out. You might pick up some useful information that you can share with other Go users because there's new Go users coming in Altspace each and every day. And it's nice to be able to share that kind of information with each other. Also, let's see here now. When I first came into Altspace on a go, I had been sick for a while and I've been in a bed for a really long time. It's gotten a lot better, but back then, I was really looking forward to it, because, remember that feeling you first had the first time you put on a headset, that feeling of being transported to another world, right? It's amazing. There's nothing like it. And I've been reading about Altspace for a while and I couldn't wait to get in here, right? So when I first stepped out of that load screen for the very first time, the first thing I did was I looked up, right? And I saw the sky up there, and that looked a lot like the sky that I remember in the real world. And I was grateful. I was so grateful I started volunteering that first day. But when I started volunteering, like I moderate for events and stuff, I wouldn't make it all the way through them because my battery would run out of power. Right. And then I'd have to charge up. I'd have to come into Altspace and try to find the event host. And if I was lucky enough to find them, I'd have to apologize for flaking out. So I got kind of off to a, sort of a rocky start in here. Right. But I started asking questions like, how can I improve my experience? And the answer to those questions eventually led to this event. All right. And, but I heard some things when I first started out. Like the first things, like I heard that, this laser pointer here, right? I was told I wouldn't be able to operate this on an Oculus Go. And you know what? That turned out to not be true. These slides behind me, right? I was told that I wouldn't be able to operate these slides on an Oculus Go. And you know what? That turned out to not be true. Also, despite having a background presenting material like this, right, in the real world, I was told my device wasn't reliable enough for me to host events. And you know what? That turned out to not only not be true, right, but I went on to become like a very prolific Altspace event host. I've done over 300 events, and more than half of them were done on Oculus Go. Right, and I like to think I did a pretty good job. All right, but so and you can too, right? All you have to do is just be aware of some certain performance issues. Because listen, there are problems being on an Oculus Go and Altspace, and we're going to go over how to address those. Because all of these problems, the majority of them, are solvable, and the ones that aren't can at least be managed. And we're going to show you how to do that today. All right. There's two routes you can take. You can work with the device you already have on your head. So before you even leave here today, you're going to know how to increase your performance. And you can also upgrade your experience to exceed the limitations of your device. And I say it like that because, listen, those of you who've been here before, I can't stand that term. You hear this on the Discord a lot with limitations of the device, weaker device. And I can't stand when I hear stuff like that because, listen, Oculus Go is a great introduction to VR. If I'm on a Quest now, but if I had come in Altspace on a Quest to start out with, I wouldn't have stayed. All right, because on the go, I didn't have to worry about vertical movement. That really helped, like vertigo and dizziness and stuff. Something I had to be concerned about. And I also didn't have to worry about the complexity of two controllers. Right, so I was able to get used to VR at my own pace. It's a great device, and I feel about it the way most people feel about their first car. Right, so keep that in mind. And if you hear that term being thrown around, don't feel bad about it, right? Because there's another term that gets thrown around Altspace an awful lot, and that's communities. There's a lot of rich and diverse communities represented in Altspace, and you got to keep in mind, right, that you are the part of that equation that matters, right? Not what kind of headset you're using. Right. So if you hear any of these terms, just remember you're not your device any more than you are your house or your car or anything like that. OK. All right. It's important to keep that stuff in mind. All right. Now, let's start out with the device that you have on your head. Right. Now, you may not be aware of this, but your device loses power even when it's not in use. All right. So if you put your device down on the table at night, all right, you come back in the morning, you may find that you have like lower battery power. Right. And, and you're going to find if you come into Altspace with, say, something like 20% battery power, you're going to have problems. Like your screen's going to flicker around, things aren't going to work quite as they should, right? So to have your best experience, what you're going to want to do is plan in advance. So if you go to allvr.com and you see on the schedule that, go time's on tonight, and you're like, oh, I want to check out that event. I've heard good things about the host. He's so dynamic, and he's got the shirt that you're starting to see everywhere. Right, Jeff? Right? It's spreading, right? Yeah, it's going everywhere. It's like flourish. All right, but, what can happen is what you want to do is about an hour before the event starts, you want to plug your device in and make sure that you have 100% power, going into the experience, right? Now, once you do that, as soon as you get your device on your head, the very first thing you want to do and make this a habit is, that middle power button that you press to turn the device on, you're going to want to press and hold that for about 4 seconds every time, right? And the reason for this is because, listen, one of the reasons that your device loses power when it's not in use is because it's checking for app updates, it's checking for firmware updates. Maybe your headset has like a pen pal on the other side of the world. Maybe your headset has a whole secret life you don't know anything about, and that could be devastating. All right. So what you're going to want to do, right, is you're going to want to plug the device in about an hour before the event starts, to fully charge up. And then when you do that reset thing at the very beginning, that's like clearing your mind, right? You're clearing out all those temporary files, and you're putting your headset in its best state. Right. And then you go into the load screen to come into Altspace. And when you arrive in here, you probably notice what an important role body language plays in here. Like if you're at an event like this and a moderator goes up to you and they start shaking their head no like this, right? That means don't do that thing. Or maybe I'm up here and I'm like, somebody gets on the stage and I'm waving like this with my hand, without me saying anything, that means get off of my stage. It's a very dangerous place. I've been trained, you might get hurt up here. But the whole thing is like, listen, from time to time, you're going to notice in Altspace that your real world hand might be right here, but your avatar's hand might be up here. And when they don't match, your body language is going to be much less convincing, and that's going to affect how you communicate with people. So if somebody were to make it up on the stage and I was having that issue, and instead of waving somebody off the stage like this, what you guys would see is my hand going like this, and I'm like, hey, everybody, welcome to Go Time. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying stay off the stage. It's very dangerous, right? The way you can fix this is if you look straight ahead, right? And don't you'll notice on your trackpad, just below your trackpad, you have 2 buttons. That very most bottom button, right? That's like, and don't press this now because if you disappear, I'm going to feel it. Somebody always presses it at this point. But if you were to press that one time, it's like an eject button. It's the best way to leave Altspace. And when you press it, you can, press quit to close the app, and then, you can restart it. That's going to solve most of your problems. But you can also click on resume, which will bring you right back into Altspace if you press it by accident, right? But this button does something else, right? If you look straight ahead and you hold and like you put your arm at your side like this, kind of bend your elbow, and you press and hold that bottom button and don't let go. After about 3 seconds, you're gonna basically, after a couple seconds, you're gonna see a white circle spin in the air in front of you, and your hand is gonna like snap right into place. right? And when that happens, take a good look at your hand and ask yourself, is this where my hand is in the real world? If it is, then you're good. Nothing to worry about. If it's not, do it again until you feel comfortable, and only you can determine what's comfortable for you. But this will help out with that a lot. All right. Also, you're going to find from time to time your menu wheel on your lower left there. Sometimes that's going to drift around and it can move into places where it's hard to reach. Like if it moves behind you, good luck with that, right? Or maybe it moves in front of you and it makes you feel off balance, right? Fortunately, your menu is in your hands at all times. That button that's just below the trackpad, that middle button there, if you press that, that's going to open up your main menu. You don't ever have to press that blue and white triangle button if you don't want to. Now, if you're looking straight ahead when you do this, and then you press it again, the menu will close, right? And then you're going to find that your menu wheel is where it's supposed to be. So if you find that menu wheel moves around a lot, just look straight ahead and press that middle button one time, and then press it again to close the menu, and you're going to look down and see that your menu wheel is right where it's supposed to be, all right? That's important. That can help out. Now, when I said earlier that I was having power issues, right? One of the first pieces of advice I got on the Oculus Go that was very useful was somebody told me to turn my brightness down, and I didn't want to because I want to have the best graphic experience I could possibly have in Altspace. And to me, that meant having my brightness turned way up to retina burning levels, right? I mean, it was painful, but my graphics were awesome, or so I thought, right? So after a while of my battery constantly running out of power, I figured I'd give it a shot. So I went to the Oculus main menu, that first screen that you first have on there, and what I did was I pressed onto that, where it says settings, and then right in the middle there, right, it said brightness, and I turned off auto brightness, and there's this big blue bar there, right, that says brightness, and I turned it down a little bit more, and every time I came into Altspace, I turned it down a little bit more and a little bit more until finally there was no brightness on at all. All the blue had gone away, and I came into Altspace with my brightness completely turned off, and I could not believe what I saw. You see, back then, I used to help out an event, and right in that world that it was a tree off in the corner on this island, right? And all the moderators would hang out there before the event started, just hanging out and stuff. And I'm walking over there, right? And I stopped, and I looked up, and I couldn't believe it. That tree looked more realistic than anything I'd seen in Altspace before. I couldn't get over, and I used to see this thing every day, but it looks so different. It looks so real, right? So listen, if you turn down your brightness, you're going to enjoy better performance, right? You're going to get better graphics. Most importantly, your battery is going to last longer. I did this, and I started, lasting through entire events. What's going on there, Joe? Okay. All right. That's super distracting. Okay. All right. I'm guessing that you're lifting their headset up and you're throwing it around your head in a circle because you're so into. Oh, you're gone. All right. He whipped his headset around so fast he disappeared. I see you have a question there, Heroku. We're going to be taking questions at the end, so just hang on to that. Okay. All right. So let's see. Now, Go users get kind of a bad reputation in Altspace, and I'll tell you why this is. Right? It's because, listen, the microphone on the Go is incredibly powerful. It really is. So what happens is the sound comes out of your ear straps, right? And it gets picked up by the microphone and projected out into Altspace, right? Now, the problem is we don't know what we sound like in Altspace. I was hosting events for nearly a year before I heard what I sounded like in here. Matter of fact, if you look up in the back there, we got Raven Eye floating in the air. That's our YouTube channel, right? And that's where I first heard myself speak in Altspace, right? And that's how I learned how I sound like. By the way, YouTube, we got Big Ray over here. We got Jeff. We've got that boy named Abe. I'm not really saying that. That's actually his name, his full name right there. We got Ivan. We got Pauline here in the blue. We got Kevin. We got a lot of people in here. Come on in. I think you'll enjoy it, right? But yeah, so you don't know what you sound like in Altspace, and you have that sound coming out, right? And what can happen is you can be standing there having a conversation with your friends, and all of a sudden you hear a voice, a very familiar voice, right? It's your own voice coming out of another avatar. And what a lot of times you'll see happen is somebody will go up to that person and go, "Are you on a go? Are you on a go?" And that can feel like really off-putting when that happens, especially if you're a new user, right? But what they're experiencing is pretty off-putting too. They're hearing their voice with a sound delay as it was in the past. And it has the effect of somebody ever copy you in real life, like when you're talking to somebody and they repeat everything you say, but it's like slightly behind you. It can throw you off, and it's kind of hard to have a conversation with somebody like that. Fortunately, it's really easy to take care of this. You're going to notice on your headset on the very top on the left side, there's two buttons. All right, and you press either of these buttons, you're going to see these vertical bars appear in the air in front of you, right? The leftmost button is the volume down button. The one next to that is the volume up button. When you press either of these, you're going to see those vertical bars appear in the air, right? Some will be solid and some will be clear. What you're going for is you want 4 clear bars on the right side, and this means that your volume is going to be set 4 tick marks away from the maximum, right? And when you press on either of those and you get that set up, right, now the microphone won't be able to pick up the sound as easily, and you're going to find people start being nicer to you almost right away, right? Now, the problem with this is what's going to happen is it comes as a trade-off in that you may occasionally struggle to hear people. But you know what? It turns out you still got one good hand in the real world, right? And try this now. If you take your left hand and cup it up to your ear like that, right, what's going to happen is you're going to hear the sound of my voice go up, right? This is a way of temporarily increasing the volume. The one way to fix this, absolutely, absolutely fix this to ensure the only sound coming out of your avatar is your own, is to get a pair of like headphones or a pair of inexpensive earbuds like I did, acquire those, right? And then you're going to find that the only voice coming out of you is you, except occasionally you have a family member come in and say, hey, are you still on that thing? You can fix that too. Get them their own headset and then come into VR and see how it is. Now, what you can do is, let's see here. Now, when I added the earbuds to my device, right, this changed a lot of things for me because I started to think, what else can I add to this device to, improve my experience? Because I was having a lot of issues with my headset, right? And I came up with what I call a Go Plus experience because when I did the things I'm about to discuss with you, right, I would go into heavy performance areas, right, and users would disappear into the floor or they'd vanish altogether, and and I would remain. All right, my device became super reliable after I did these things, and yours can too. You just have to make a few small changes. But before I tell you about it, to discuss it, I'm going to have to discuss these products up here, right? And when I do that, the temptation is going to be, listen. All right, temptation is going to be to write them down. We've made these links super easy to get, but please bear in mind these are not the only products that work. If you find something that works better for you, maybe a better price or something like that, feel free to check it out and come back and tell us about it. I love hearing like the different routes people take to solve these problems. All right, or just remember, it's the ideas behind these products that work, not the actual products themselves. All right, if you do want to try any of these, we've made them super easy to find. You don't got to worry about writing this stuff down. If you go to altvr.com and you go to the upper left, you're going to see where it says channels. And if you click on channels, you're going to see all these Altspace event channels. And down toward the very bottom, you're going to see Ravenhall events. It says in the sound booth there. And when you click on that, you're going to you'll be taken to our event page, right? And on our event page, you're going to see all these products listed on the left-hand side. There's also a join Discord button if you want to hang out and ask us questions and stuff like that. You totally can. You're also going to notice in the upper right the most important button on the internet. That's where they keep it. It's true. That's the subscribe button. And when you press on that, it lets Altspace know you enjoy our content. We don't get paid to do this, right? But every time we see that number go up, it's a great way to say thank you, and really makes us feel good. So if you would press that, that would be cool. Also, if you want another place you can get these links, if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll find the links to these products in the description below. All right. Also, but yeah, what these products are is the first one up top is you have the Anker Power Cord battery pack. And listen, Altspace, Oculus says not to use their devices while they're plugged in, right? But it's they do say it's okay to use an external battery pack. So I figured I'd address my my power issue right there. And this battery pack is supposed to last 16 hours in VR, and I didn't think I'd ever need to spend 16 hours in VR because I like food and sleep and water and stuff like that, right? But around the time I ordered it, I'd heard at this point a lot of people were suddenly starting to have problems charging their device, right? And one of the reasons for this is you ever notice when you plug in your headset how tight that port is, right? And I thought that all that wear and tear of using it every day eventually loosens the connection and makes it charge down as effectively. So I was looking to solve that too, and I found this MagSafe cable, this middle product here. One tip plugs into your headset, the other one goes through a USB port into the battery pack, right? And it's held in place by a magnetic connector, right? So what happened was, this is actually a great safety feature because if you turn your head suddenly and it yanks on that cable, instead of having your world turn upside down as your headset shifts, right? All it's going to do is just pop right off. And all you have to do, you don't even have to come out of VR to fix it. You can just hold it up to the side of your device and it'll like thunk right into place. And if your microphone's open, everyone's going to hear it. They're going to hear that thunk sound. They're going to be like, what was that? And you're going to be like, that's power. That's what that was. It's pure power. You don't have to say that. It doesn't make it work any differently, but just something I did, and feel free to carry that on if you want to, right? But and now when I did this, I was starting to last a lot longer in Altspace, but I had a new problem. I started overheating like all the time. Anybody out there overheat? Anybody like ever overheat? Raise a hand up, show me some emojis, right? We got some, look, like almost everybody. Look at that. All right. That can be a real pain. It can make you worry a lot about your device, right? Like, they come up with different ways to address this. I've heard some people put ice packs or frozen peas and stuff like that on their headsets. I wouldn't recommend doing that because that's going to create condensation inside your headset and water and electricity on your face. Not a good combination, right? And the people I know that did this went through more than one device. So I don't recommend doing that. Fortunately, what I can recommend is getting one of these AC Infinity mini fans here. What you want to do is make sure the silver part is facing the faceplate. Because listen, the faceplate is installed by hand, right? And as such, people get different results with it. Some people overheat every 20 minutes. Some lucky few never overheat at all. I knew one guy that overheated every 2 minutes. The very first go time we had, when we opened up the questions at the end, what happened was somebody said that, and they sent me a picture of this to verify it, but it was, they said that half of their headset became like, the side of it got all pushed in and deformed from the heat. It was that bad. And this made me really worry. I knew this was a problem we had to solve, right? So on the day my fan arrived, I was set to moderate at the meditation event, which is an amazing space if you've never been there. It's on top of a mountain. right? There's all this smoke coming out of these bowls. There's like sunlight streaming down through the fog. It's very beautiful. And I was set to moderate that day. And whenever I would go there, right, I would always overheat 20 minutes into the experience every time. It was always 20 minutes. So luckily, I was set to moderate that day, and I went in with the fan on. You know, if you've ever seen Star Trek, I felt like one of those board characters because I had all these wires coming down. You do get used to that. And I walked up to the host, Jeremy, and I said, you know, can you hear my fan? And he says, not at all. And I said, well, that's great. So I turned it up to medium, and I said, how about now? Because it's got 3 speeds, right? And he says, I can hear it a little bit, but it's not that bad, right? So I turned it up to maximum, as high as it would go. And he goes, I definitely heard that. It sounds like you're in a wind tunnel, right? I was like, oh, all right, okay. So I turned it all the way down. And spoiler alert, I never had to turn it up again. On its lowest setting, this is what happened, right? I went through the event, 20 minutes came and went, and I didn't overheat. And I was happy about that, right? Then the event finished. I made it through the entire event, right? And didn't overheat at all, and I was happy about that. But I wanted to see where the line was. How far could I go? So I went to another event, right? Didn't overheat. Then I went to a third event, didn't overheat. Then I went to my home space, hung out with my friends, and you know what? Then it finally happened. I left Altspace for the very first time, not because I had to, right? I left by choice because I was tired, because I actually wanted to. I didn't leave because I was overheated. I didn't leave because I ran out of power. I was, for the very first time, I left Altspace by choice, and it would be the last time. After this, I became super involved in Altspace, right? I started volunteering for events. I started hosting events. I was everywhere. And you can too. You just have to make a few small changes. And none of this stuff is very expensive. You're going to notice that this the battery pack is the most expensive thing up here. This is about $30 to $40 US. It comes in different sizes and capacities, and you may not need one this big. You may only be in Altspace for a few hours a night, and if that's the case, you can get by with a smaller capacity, right? This fan on the bottom is about $10 or $11 US. This cable in the middle here is only about $7 US. So it's just a few small changes, but after this, your device can become super reliable. Now, and that's not to say there won't be any problems. There are. And these problems are manageable. Let me show you how to do that. Like one of the most common ones, right? If I go if you go to turn left, to Panda Finda there, right? And but instead of turning left, you go straight, and you're like, that's weird. What's going on, right? Did it ever happen to you, right? Or maybe I turn right to say something to Hummingbird, but instead of turning right, I go straight again, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on there, right? So then, I move down on the controller to move backwards to back up so I can see them, but instead of backing up, I go straight again. And I start bashing buttons no matter what I do. I keep moving forward, right? And the next thing you know, I'm standing inside of an admin. There is nothing more frightening than standing inside of that. I saw things when I was in there too. It keeps me up nights. I saw things about user development. I saw the past. I saw the future. It was really just really disturbing. It's just really bad. But listen, what I can tell you to do is like how to take care of this. Right now, your controller, right? The pad on it is a touchpad, so as such, it's sensitive to, of course, touch, but also heat and moisture, right? And what you're going to want to do is reset this connection. The way you can do this is by taking your thumb and without pressing down, gently swipe it from one side to the other. It doesn't matter if it's right to left or left to right. When you get to the other side, lift your thumb off the pad completely and cross over to the other side and do it again. And make this a reflex. So if I go to turn left but I move straight, what I'm going to want to do is go swipe, 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 right? And then come down in a direction that I want to go, and then I'll be moving in the ways that I want to. All right, and you can too. And you will get used to it, and it will help things a lot. Another thing that can happen occasionally, right, is you're going to put your headset on, and it's going to say, you're going to have a message that says, can't find controller. Right? Now, this can happen if you need to replace the battery in your controller. That can happen. But you put a fresh battery in it last night, and for one reason or another, your headsets become unlinked with your controller. Right? This can happen from time to time. Maybe your headset found out, maybe your controller found out about your headset's secret life and isn't too happy about it, right? And they're no longer speaking. It's pretty disturbing when that happens. What you can do is you don't even have to take your headset off to fix this. You're going to notice below the trackpad, you have those two buttons, right? If you press and hold those two buttons for about 3 or 4 seconds, a little white light's going to appear on your trackpad. Now, if you're wearing your headset, you're not going to see this. But what you will see as soon as you lift your thumb back up is you're going to have your hand back. Right, and then you can come in the load screen, right, and you'll be like on time for your event, and while you're in the load screen, you'll be thinking, man, I sure am glad I went to go time. That Michael Forrest, he knew what he was talking about, right? He told me, to double down. I forgot to say that. That's a good way to remember this by saying, by doubling down on those buttons, right? You'll take care of that issue, right? Then you get to be on time for your event, right? So if that happens to you, you're welcome. All right. Another thing that can happen from every now and then is you're going to notice from time to time that your headset goes dark. You'll be standing there having a conversation with somebody, and what can happen is that you will, find that your screen goes dark. Now, this happens because all this stuff in here, right, all this stuff in the room, all the avatars here, right, you're going to notice that this stuff takes up memory, right? And when that memory is full, your screen's going to go dark. If your microphone's open, you'll still be able to, hear your friends and talk to everybody, right? And all you have to say is, I'll be right back, and press that bottom eject button, then press quit to close the app, and then restart the app, right? Now, the best way to manage this is by getting out ahead of it before it happens, right? So at the end of this event, you ask you, what do you want to do now? Oh, let's go explore worlds, right? You can go do that, but every time you go to a world, all the stuff's going to load into your headset, right? So when you go to another world, you might want to just restart the app by pressing that bottom button, pressing quit, and then restarting the app and coming back in. And this way, you're able to control when it happens by spacing it out. Because all the stuff that's in here, like I said, it stays in your headset, including this big red shiny button that we're going to use at the end. We have a special effect we do at the end of our events when we take you guys flying, so you're going to see that in just another minute. All right, now, normally at this point, I show everybody building tips, but I'm running a little over on time. If you guys want to see those building tips, throw me up some hearts. Otherwise, we'll just go on to the question part. All right, you throw me some smiles for questions and throw me the hearts if you want to see the building tips. All right, only one person for building tips. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, Paul. It looks like you're in an hour, but if you like to see me after, I can show you some stuff. All right, it's 2. All right, 3. All right, so we got. All right, fine, we'll do it. All right. So what we have here, right, is let's say I used to moderate for an event called Building Worlds, and at this event, I'd hear a lot of Go users saying they can't build worlds in Altspace, saying it's too hard, and it simply isn't true, right? The Oculus Go is capable of remarkable precision, right? It really is. Where do people get this impression from? Well, if you're in the World Beta program and you have in your main menu, you've gone to settings and you've enabled World Beta, it'll allow you to build in Altspace, right? And when you go to into the World Editor and you go to grab an object, right? As soon as you do, that object's going to start swinging around all over the place, right? And it takes a little while to realize, like, oh no, it's going everywhere. This isn't what I wanted at all, right? It takes a little while to realize that it's your head that's actually controlling the movement, right? And you're like, oh, okay, all right. Now, to overcome this? What you're going to want to do is in your world editor, you're going to see on the very bottom is a checkbox that says lock rotation. Now, when you click on this, when you click at the object you're editing, if you click and release the button one time on your controller, right, now you'll be able to control the level of, what you're editing. And then you squeeze and release the trigger again, and it'll lock it into place, right? Then you can take a look at it and be like, that's kind of level right there. I've got myself an Altspace mustache. There we go, right? So, you could do that, right? But, once you've done that, because listen, it's really hard to keep a level head in any reality, let alone a virtual one. So when you do this, you'll have a lot more control. Now, if you squeeze and hold the trigger, this will allow you to move the object up, down, left, and right. And if you swipe on your control pad up or down, it's going to push the object away from you. It will pull it closer to you. If you swipe left to right, it's going to change the size and scale of the object. And you can hold it and carry it around and place it where you want to. So let's say that like I, move it over here and I place it on the edge of the stage like this, right? Cool. All right, now, not so cool because, listen, if this is the real world, that would be on the floor right now, right? So it doesn't look very realistic, right? But on the Oculus Go, you only need to get it close enough, right? So that's close enough to where I want it. So what I can do now is I can open up the world editor, right? And when I do, I'm going to see all the items listed there, and I'm going to look for the item that says laser pointer. And when I see that item, I'm going to see there's a cogwheel next to it. And if I press that cogwheel, a panel's going to open up with all these numbers. Some of these numbers will be, for the position or, for the rotation or the size of the scale. And you could change the label and all that stuff. And, what you can do is experiment with these numbers to watch what happens. So let's say that right now its position has an X of 20, right? And I lower it down, just change it by a tiny bit and watch what happens. Like, let's say I change it to 19 and all of a sudden it jumps over here. And I'm like, oh, okay. So now any item I place in this space, if I lower the value on the X, it's going to move in that direction towards the window. That must mean if I increase the value on the X, it's going to move toward that wall where Hummingbird is, right? And now the next item I place in this space is going to get easier and easier and easier to edit. Now, listen, I know the little keyboard they give us to type on, right? I know that can be a little tough to type on that, from messing each other. It's like you're pecking out those messages real slow. But believe it or not, it's a lot like when you start playing a video game, right? In the beginning, you're thinking about the controls that you push, right? But in about a week, you're not thinking about the controls anymore. You're just thinking about how to save the world, right? You're just thinking about how to crush your enemies. That's a great way to spend a Wednesday, right? And it will get easier and easier the more you do it. There's a lot of really incredible worlds in Altspace that were built on an Oculus Go, and yours can be too, so keep at it, and I'm looking forward to seeing all your work, right? As a matter of fact, when this event is over, we are going to be going to the Ravenel Flight Academy to teach you guys how to fly, right? And that world was built in less than 2 days on an Oculus Go. All right, so that'll give you some idea of what you can accomplish. There's a couple of portals there, too, that show some other worlds that were built on Oculus Go's, and once you explore, you're going to realize what you're capable on these, on these things, right? All right, now we are going to be taking your questions now, so what we're going to do is you're going to notice in your lower right, there's going to be a raise hand button that appears as if by magic, right? That's what magic looks like in VR. It really does. It looks like a hand on your lower right. Okay. Now, when you press on that, you're going to get on my list, and I'll be able to call on you if you have any questions or comments. I see we have Heroku has a question. Heroku, what's up? Haruko, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Let's see. You're on the air. What's going on, Haruko?
Yep,
Where are you?
I'm good.
What's up?
Hi, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
Okay, so you mentioned about brightness before. Right now, just looking at your screen at the moment, I just see it's a little blurry, and it's the same thing with my menu button. When it comes to that brightness setting, would that also be a way to like kind of adjust it?
You know what? It can help it somewhat, but what you're experiencing there, that can actually be solved in Altspace. All right, because by default, to increase performance, they have the graphic display turned down very low, right? And that's the way to get everyone's devices to perform better. But it's an at your own risk kind of thing. Like I can't officially say, hey, turn up your brightness stuff, but unofficially I'm saying, hey, turn up your brightness stuff. What you can do is go into your main menu and go to your settings toggle on the lower right, and you're going to see you have a category on the left-hand side called display. Right now, you can move through these options here of anti-aliasing and in-world render scale. You can move through these to turn up your brightness, right? And by not your brightness, your graphic quality. Now you do this at your own risk because it can make performance go down. So if you notice you do this and certain worlds you go to get really choppy, then you can turn it back down again. But what you will find is it actually helps you see things better. Also, moving closer to the object can also make you see things better, right? That blurriness will go away a great deal if you turn your graphics up, all right? But it will make performance go down somewhat. So just keep that in mind, okay? Let's see. We also have Big Ray. All right, Big Ray, you have a question or a comment or something like that? Or you, Big Ray?
There was something about 3 swipes.
Wait, there's something about what? Wait, hang on one second. Are you using the fan right now?
Yeah.
Is it a full-size fan or is it on your headset?
It's a full-size fan. I'm sitting in front of it, but I.
Okay, you want to get that small one, right? Because right now it sounds like you're in a wind tunnel, and it's making me want to go. I can barely hear you. You can walk into that. It's some kind of action movie type thing, like we're out at sea and there's like a big storm going on, and we're all going up and down like that. All right, now I'm sorry, I didn't catch that question. What was it?
Yeah, there was something about 3 swipes. You said like if you're trying to go in a certain direction and you start drifting in another direction. Yeah.
Has it ever happened to you?
I find I cannot. I'm trying to go backward and I keep going forward.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
All right. Now, the way to fix this, if this happens to you, right, is what you want to do is you see this trackpad right here, right? You take your thumb and you swipe it, right, without pressing down, very gently. Swipe it from one side to the other. So you go swipe, 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 and then you move in the direction that you want to, and you're going to find that you'll be able to move like the way you want to better. Right?
Okay. It resets it.
Yes, exactly. It resets the connection by doing that. So you go, and you could do it 2 or 3 times. So like if you move left, but instead of going left, you go straight, just go swipe, 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 and then you'll be moving in the direction that you want to go. All right, everybody, I'm a little bit over on time. So if anybody has any more comments or questions or anything like that, I could take this at the Flight Academy where we teach you guys to fly, right? So if I didn't call on you, you can, take me there, right? And the way we're going to get there is this cool effect. You see that button that's over there? What I'm going to do is I'm going to press that button, and it's going to call in a Ravenhall Talon hovercraft. And you can fly these ships if you'd like to give that a try at the Academy. And the way we do this is we press this button, and when I do, it's going to fly by the window, so you'll get to see it there. It's going to go up over those trees. It's going to land in that backyard area. It's going to open up a portal, and that's how we'll go. But before we head out, if you've learned anything here today, please share it with those you come in contact with. That's how we help keep this thing going. Right. So somebody's, out there and they say, my face is on fire. It's overheating all the time. I don't know what to do. Tell them about the fan. Tell them about Go Time. Tell them about our event page and how they can find this stuff. Right. And, you'll feel good because you help somebody. They'll feel good because they got the problem solved. And that's how we, keep this thing going. All right. I'm going to press this button. So direct your attention out the window right now.
Ravenhall Talon aircraft en route to your position.
There it is. All right. So if we go out in the backyard area, we will, be able to pick it up and meet it. So let's head on out. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. This is awesome. But we're going to learn how to fly. And if you have any questions, feel free to come with us and ask us there. All right. Should be coming down about now. Let's see. Where is it? All right. It's starting to come down. Excellent. Well done. Don't worry. It's not going to hit you. It's, very good at landing precisely. Here we go. All right.
Talon aircraft is now boarding outside for transport to the Ravenhall Flight Academy. Please exit the building and step into the blue light. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming. You've been a great audience. See you at the Academy.